lesson on playing Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison. The song is in standard tuning. First of all, you need to know what the strum pattern is in the song. And to do that, you can practice muting the strings. Don't worry about the chords. The strum pattern for the song that you heard basically goes like this, and I'll do it kind of slowly. Or with the strings muted. Again. So what we're doing is we're going down on the count of 1. We're coming up on the and, but not striking the strings. Going down on the count of 2, and skipping 3, coming up on and, down on 4, and up on and. So here it is again. Now with the playing the chords, it sounds like this, slowly. Once you get that strum pattern down, then you want to practice the chord progression. With the chords you're going to be playing in the song, they're all open chords. The G chord is one that I use a certain variation of. Of course, I guess the most traditional way to play a G chord, you're playing, you have 3 strings fretted. Of course, the low E and the A string, and then you fret the high E. But for this particular song, where you're going back and forth between the G chord and the D chord a lot, I find it easier to use this variation of the G chord, where you put your pinky on the high E string, your ring finger on the B string, your index finger on the A string, and your middle finger on the low E. And this is a real handy way to make quicker chord changes in the song. When you play G, and then want to switch to the D, you leave your ring finger anchored on the B string, and you move your index finger and your middle finger down and play the D. And then when you want to go back, you bring these fingers up, plant that pinky again, so here's that chord progression. G, C, G, D. Basically you have the main chord pattern of G, C, G, D, which is repeated 4 times. And then following that, there's another little part, which is C, D, G, E minor, C, D, and G. And then there's a little extra twist at the end of this first verse that I'll explain in a moment. So let's just run through that verse. Verse number 1. G, that was 2 times, do that 2 more times, and then you go to C, D, G, E minor, C, D, and then G. Then here's where that special twist at the end of verse 1 comes in. After the down up on the D chord, you might want to just play the A string fretted at the 3rd fret, Then put your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then play it open. So we're starting with the G chord leading into the down up on the D. Here's how it goes. After you've played that, then you launch into verse 2, which is basically like verse 1, except it doesn't have that special little lick at the end. So again, it's 4 times running through the chord progression of G, C, G, D. And then you do what you did in the first verse, which is C, D, at the end of the verse, you go into the chorus, and there you play 2 more measures of D, and then you go through the main chord progression of G, C, G, D. So here I'll play verse 2 and the chorus to show you how that flows. In the chorus, you play the G, C, G, D twice after those extra couple measures of D. And then there's a break in the song, and you start out by playing the 1 line of that main chord progression G, C, G, D, and then you play 4 straight measures of G. Here's how that goes. Stay on the G chord and you play verse number 3. After verse 3 you have the final chorus, also the outro, which again it's a couple of measures of D followed by the main chord progressions of C, G, C, G, D 3 times through. Here's the chords that you play in the song Brown Eyed Girl.